So this video might be kinda weird. Normally when I'm looking at what games I want to play for the I100%ed series, criteria number 1 is it needs to be a game that I want to play. Check. Number 2, I prefer for it to be kind of a story-driven game so that we can talk about the story and then the mechanics second and we go through it that way. But this game isn't really like that. I don't understand the story of this game, and I'm not gonna pretend that I do. But I'm going to try to get you through it as best I can. This is Cocoon. It won Best Debut Indie at the Game Awards last year, so I had to check it out. But I will say one thing, if you haven't played this game, you might not want to watch this video, honestly, because this game is so cool, and it might honestly be the best puzzle game that's come out since Portal. I hope you enjoy Cocoon. As almost always, we start out on the game's title screen, but it's an interesting button you need to press to begin the game. For me, on an Xbox controller, it's the A button, which is relevant because that's the only button that you need for this entire game other than your basic move controls. We also get a little zoom in on a weird pine cone looking egg thing that is a cocoon, I assume, because our character pops out of it. We are this little bug, butterfly thing, I don't know, but we're in the isometric world now. One of the first things I noticed about moving around in this world is that it appears to be very, very open, but the paths that you can actually take are pretty restricted, which I found to be pretty nice because it really helped me build trust with the dev in seeing that where we can go and where we can't go is very strictly monitored, and everything you need to solve a puzzle is definitely within reach at all times. The basic mechanics of this game are introduced nice and easy. Step on a button, press A, the staircase pops out. Find a weird ball on a string thing, pull it around with the A button again, and out pops up the new ramp that you're going to be using. This is pretty much how the whole game is structured. They teach you these basic mechanics, and then you need to get into combining them with the other mechanics in order to progress forward, which was pretty nice. After solving a couple more of the basic puzzles, we find a little place where we can hit 3 little leaf things poking out of the ground, which opens up a new portal for us. When we step inside that portal, we get warped out of the orb that we were in, this orange orb here, and we come face to face with this weird insect, moth, butterfly thing that looks at us and our new orb friend and then becomes part of the orb itself. I assume this is like imbuing its spirit powers into it or something, because we'll get into some of the power stuff later, but for right now, we now have an orb that we can pick up and take into this new world that we've entered. So now the game has already changed. We've got the outside world that is here where we are now, and there's also the world inside of the orb. So in this outside world, a lot of the puzzles are based on using the orb to move us somewhere else, and then coming back to get the orb to continue the mission. A puzzle that's presented consistently throughout this game a couple different times is this interesting puzzle where you need to pick the correct order for the symbols with these little leaf things from before, and normally the symbol is hidden somewhere in the environment near where the puzzle takes place. So you figure out the order and then you hit the symbols and then you're good to go. And these puzzles are relevant because once you complete them, you can hold down the A button underneath them and you get a little friend that follows you on your mission. Our new little friend kind of serves as a key for us because now we can re-enter the orange orb and we find the place that we couldn't progress through before has these little blockades on it, so we can walk our friend up to it, and bada bing bada boom, he unlocks it and we're able to progress again. And while our friend serves as a key for those little gates, he also serves to get us into these big gates as well. We insert him into this purple pod thing, and then we get to enter the next part of the area. As we walk past the first gate, we find a path that has some black blobby things around it. Now this will be a standard marker we need to look for because we come back here and once we click on it, we earn our first achievement off the beaten path. This is called a moon spirit. There's quite a few of these throughout the game, and each of them has an achievement attached to them. Immediately after the moon spirit, we cross a bridge that we see fall apart behind us, which tells us pretty certainly that this is about to be a boss fight. So this first boss fight is against, you guessed it, a big moth. Weird. This guy looks a little familiar. That's interesting. But he's really not too big of a deal. We take him out with not too much trouble. and then we see a white orb fly out of his body, he gets sucked into it, and then it opens up another portal for us to leave back into the regular world. Once we come out of the orb, we see a beam of light shoot up into the air and then surround us, and we earn our second achievement, Pathfinder. But we're not really sure what that means yet. It doesn't take long to figure out what that achievement meant though, as the orange orb has now been imbued with the power to generate these bridges that allow us to cross gaps that would have been impossible before. After crossing a couple bridges, we come to a dome that has a spot for 2 orbs now. We only have our orange one, so I guess we're gonna need to find another way to solve this puzzle. But fortunately, this game loves to not make you wait too long to figure things out, as we find a staircase that we open up, which leads us to the second orb, the green orb. Our introduction to the green orb goes much the same way as the orange orb. We see another creature. I'm not really sure what this guy is supposed to be, but he turns to ash and enters our orb, and now we have a green orb to play around with. So now we have 2 orbs. The game has gotten a little bit more interesting. We have to manage both of these orbs and move them from place to place, so things have gotten a little bit more challenging, but not too crazy yet. And having 2 orbs also opens up the fact that we can now bring orbs into the other orbs, which allows us to open up more paths that were previously inaccessible, such as this one in the orange orb. We free another little friend from his yellow prison, and we take that little friend as well as our orange orb into the green orb for the first time. So this one is obviously laid out a little different. The orange was more like a desert. This is more like an ocean theme. And not long after we get into the green orb, we manage to take a little offshoot to earn our third achievement, Mariner's Branch, for unleashing another moon spirit out onto the world. After a little bit more exploring, we managed to take our friend even deeper into the green orb and unlock another one of these big gate things that opens up and lets us progress a little bit more. Also just gonna throw in here that I'm cutting out a lot of the just moving around the world puzzles, but there are some great little things that you need to figure out that this game is just lovely at. Here's a great example of one of those puzzles that isn't difficult, but it makes you think for a second. We're holding our orange orb, and the orange orb is too big to fit through the bars if we're holding it. So we have to back out of the green orb, place the orange orb inside the green orb, then walk through the bars, warp back out, grab the orange orb, and there you go. We cross another one of these flimsy bridges that falls apart right when we step on it, and that of course means it's time for our second boss fight of the game. So this one's kinda weird. You pick up these orbs and then boost around them using water, and then drop them on this weird creature that we met before in order to move between the different stages of the fight. And this one, I think this is probably the easiest fight of the game, honestly. It's not too difficult to maneuver around him, but same deal as before. Once we take him out, he becomes this little white ball, and then we get a warp back into the outside world. And once again, same deal as before. Once we exit the orb, we see a beam of green light shoot up into the sky, and some power resonate from the orb. And we earn our next achievement, Fundamental Changes, and this one we figure out what it does immediately, as we see it allows us to climb up these green pillars of light, as well as duck down through other pillars as well. At this point, we also get introduced to the concept of holding one orb inside the other orb and being able to move through the world a bit easier that way than we would be if we were trying to maneuver 2 at once. We find another point in the world where we can't seem to find a way to progress while carrying our orb, so we take another step back inside green to get a little progression that way. So we're pretty much in the rhythm now. We solve another puzzle that gets our little friend out, we bring him to the key part which opens up the gate, and then we can enter through that gate and find the next orb, the purple orb. We're up to 3 now. We meet another certified bug freak who turns to ash in front of our eyes and goes inside of our orb, and we're free to leave. So we've got the purple orb now, time to check out what's inside of it, right? And it's so worth entering the purple orb because we find our first of these little dog guys who we can give our orb to and they will follow us around. We do what all good dog owners would do, and we give our dog a walk over a mostly stable bridge. Once we've reunited our green and orange orbs inside the purple orb, we can put them onto this little trolley thing that will take us into the next area of the purple orb. So this is the part of the game that really kind of got me excited about it. The first time I played this game, I was kind of but at this point I started to get pretty into it. And so up to this point we find some plugs where we need to put the orange and green orbs, but unfortunately they float away and we have a couple more puzzles we need to solve before we can progress. We recover the orange orb without too much trouble, and while we're trying to solve the rest of the orange area, we find a little spot where we can use a dog to stand on the other activator on the opposite side of us, and we can pull up another moon spirit, and we earn our 5th achievement, Skin Deep, right here. We put our dog to work on our mission to recover both of the orbs, and with both of our orbs back in our control, we pop them into this weird clamshell thing that takes us to the next area inside of the purple orb. So we're in the next area now, and I just want to put some more praise on the way that this game was constructed. This is the first puzzle game that I've played in a while that I didn't look up a single thing on solving anything in this game. I really felt like the creators of this did a great job showing you that you had everything that you needed possible right there every time you were solving a puzzle, and it really helps encourage you to get through the game better, in my opinion. Moving on, we get to a fun little section where we need to use bounce pads to launch our little dog friends over across a gap, and then they proceed to open up a bridge for us, very cute. And right after crossing that bridge, we find our next moon spirit for achievement number 6, different destinations right along the path there. But we don't have too long to bask in the glory of unlocking that moon spirit as we get into the next boss fight right after. Now this is probably my favorite boss fight of the game. We take control of this purple spirit who rotates opposite of us around this circle, and we have the ability to flip back and forth between our position and their position to avoid the boss and his attacks. And we get through this fight pretty easy, same deal, becomes a white light. And then back outside of the orb, we get this purple light shoot up into the air, we see the explosion of power, and then we get our 7th achievement from there to here for unlocking the purple orb's power. And we don't have to wait too long to see it because, as you can see here, we pick up the orbs and then we've got the purple orb with us, which we use to get past this place where we were stuck, because now it doesn't matter where we leave our orbs, we can grab them anywhere we see one of these purple orbs. And just like when we got the other orb powers, having this new teleportation ability is so cool. It unlocks a whole new world of puzzles that they can throw at us and so many more solutions we can try. Now that we've solved a couple of the purple orb only problems, we can pull the other orbs out and slot them into this spinning disc, and then we can take our magical flying Beyblade of Doom straight into the next area of the outer orb world. After we get off our Beyblade, we come to an area where we have our 3 orbs down, and we need to do 3 different sets of puzzles, all based on each of the orb's powers. We decide to take on the orange area first, and it's a good thing that we do, because we managed to find our 8th achievement here, Conduit, for unlocking the next moon spirit. This orange area also boasts what I think is probably the hardest puzzle for me specifically, and I only actually solved it because of this mistake I made here where I accidentally fell through the floor. The solution is to walk the dog onto this bridge, take the orange orb to drop the dog, and then you can get through these gates that close based on that button, and that was just really clever. When we put the orange orb on the pedestal at the end of the area, it gets absorbed by this black material and becomes the Batman logo very briefly before the orb drops down to give us a method of getting back to that central area where the other 2 orbs live until we get them done. We retrieve the green and purple orbs in much the same way, and then we have all 3 of our orbs back together once again. Things go a little bit different for us this time though, because once we have the 3 orbs together, we step on our pressure plate, and then we get transported right out to the final orb that we're going to get in this game, the white orb. Now this orb is protected by a much bigger entity than we've seen before, but same deal, he turns to ash and goes inside the white orb, and now we're ready to move once again. And now of course it's time for us to enter the white orb for the first, or well, second time because we just came out of it. And of course you probably get the rhythm of the game by now. Inside the white orb it's time for our boss fight. First we shoot ourselves out of a cannon for this one, so you know, that's kind of fun. But in this boss fight, not too difficult. I think I beat this one on the first try actually, but we launch ourselves back and forth using the white orb between these little pads, which crystallize the boss's legs, which we take out. And yeah, not too difficult. Eventually the white orb comes out, and now it's power time, baby. So now it's time for the big reveal. What is power number 4 for our 4th orb gonna be? And right now we find out with achievement number 9, this has potential, And we can see that there are these white runes on the ground that actually give us the ability, while we're holding the white orb, to shoot these little beams of power out that activate different things connected to the shapes we shoot. After we solve a couple more puzzles, we get introduced to what I guess is the main antagonist of this game. I'm not 100% sure. We put our white orb, which is currently holding all of the other orbs, into the pedestal, and then we see this big looming figure in the background pick out all of our other orbs other than our white orb, and he gets powered up and floats away, so now we're left with just our white orb. Now that we have all of the powers introduced into this game, this is the part where I was really enjoying the kind of stuff that they're cooking up here. Even only having the white orb available at this point, there are some really interesting puzzles that we're doing here with different ways that you can use the white orb to shoot out these balls of power, which you can then use to set off different abilities, and it's just so great the way the game is working at this point. After we clear the area with just the white orb, we come to a place where we need to use the new white orb shooting ability to hit these little diamond things that are rotating around us as we get shot up into the air, and that figure that stole our orbs before is looming in the distance. We're gonna have to do this a couple of times in the next area, and there's 3 different ones that you need to hit during each of the segments. Once we clear out all 3 levels of the diamond shooting game, we get a chance to shoot the big enemy in the face one time with our big red laser cannon, and then because he's decided to be such a nice guy, he'll give us the green orb back. Now, not all the orbs, just the green one for now. We'll have to earn those other ones still. So now with the combination of the green and white orb, we can make a little bit more progress back in the green orb that we weren't able to do previously. And as always, this game's creators know exactly what they're doing because we used the white orb's ability to unlock the next moon spirit, earning achievement number 10, Cryptographer. This was another pretty tough area full of difficult puzzles to solve, but we make it through and enter another one of the diamond shooting minigames. Each one of these gets a little bit harder than the last. This time when you shoot, they rotate instead of just rotating on their own, but we get through it and shoot the big guy in the face one more time. And then, once again, he gives us an orb for our trouble. This time, the orange has been added to the party. So now we can re-enter the orange orb for the first time in a long time and make some progress that we were locked out of at the very start of the game. And now that we have the orange orb unlocked, we can also use the green orb inside of the orange orb to earn achievement number 11, the space between the stars, for freeing yet another moon spirit. Here's yet another puzzle that I just want to take a moment to appreciate. We slot 2 orbs into this gate, and it opens up, and we see another path that we didn't have before. When we cross into that gate, we find ourselves in a familiar area. This is actually inside the white orb right before the boss fight. So what's this for? Well, the cool new purpose that we found here with this gate that opens up into the white orb is that we can send the white orb across a gap that we wouldn't previously be able to get through, and then we can warp out back into the world that we were in previously, but now we're across the gap. This also allows us to pick up achievement number 12, a perspective on things from the next moon spirit. Back outside of the orbs, there is a puzzle here that is very cool, which involves using the white orb to shoot one of those beams out into a mirror, and then we need to jump the orb into the air to catch the beam as it's coming, and it's just very cool. But after that very cool puzzle, we get another one of these diamond shooting minigames, and we shoot a couple more lasers at the big guy, but this time he decides to fight back a little bit, and we get a little bit of a ping pong thing going, but you know we came out on top. So now the big monster has nothing left to give except for our purple orb back. And we can celebrate because we've got all of the boys back together again, but this time the monster doesn't stick around. He seems to like explode or implode or something. I don't know, he's not here anymore and he's not having a great time, but we are because we just got achievement number 13, Daybreak. So after defeating the big guy, we find ourselves in front of the final gate with all of our orbs, so nothing left to do except for go inside of those orbs and figure out what the plan is. We just received the purple orb, so it seems kinda logical that that's the orb that we should go to now, and we're right, because we can take all of our orbs inside purple and enter into a new area that we wouldn't have had access to previously as we were gatekept by the white orb. Okay, so I'm aware I've said the word orb about 90 times in this video so far, and I'm going to try to keep things simple. Inside of purple, we find that we can put the green and the orange orbs into this thing, which opens up another gate. Great. But this gate leads into the green orb, which is weird. But we saw this before with the white orb. We take our orange orb over, and great, now we're inside the green orb, and we can use the abilities that we had previously inside the green orb. But this time, if we warp out of the green orb, we come inside the orange orb, because that's where we were keeping the green orb before, and now we've effectively duplicated the orange orb. Yikes. But something that isn't yikes is unlocking achievement number 14, Loophole Maneuvers, which is very aptly named based on what we just had to go through. So after we do a little bit more exploring in the green orb, we find another little friend that can help us unlock some of the things that we need to open up, and we can get to the end of the game here. But first we need to go back around and collect all of the orbs in the places that we've left them. And we know that we're doing the right thing here because as we bring the orange orb through the gate, we see that it slams closed behind us, telling us that we're ready for this final challenge and getting all of our orbs together in front of the final puzzle that we need to solve here with this gate. We notice that green lights up on this, but when we put another color in, it doesn't. So the solution to the puzzle here is pretty easy once you kind of have a grasp of what you're doing. There's really only one thing that you can do. We need to put the orbs in an ascending order that allows us to have green as the only one left out, and they need to be going up as we approach this gate. So orange is inside of white, which is inside of purple, which is inside of green. So perfect, we can slot them into the final gate, and we get our green orb to pop up, and we progress into the end of the game here. So after that gate opens up, we get carried by a couple nice friendly gusts of wind that take us back to another nice friendly place that we haven't seen in a couple hours of gameplay. We land back in the very first area where we started the game, and we have one more button left to press. We hold down A one more time, and we float into the air, and we see the transformation begin. The name of the game is Cocoon, and we couldn't get to the end here without seeing a transformation into our character's final form. I guess we're a butterfly. We kind of resemble a moth to me, but here we are. It looks like a butterfly. And the end of this game is kind of weird as well. We see a slow pan out through all of the orbs, as well as like a pan out into the universe. There are a lot of these orbs, it seems like, which could be a potential setup for a Cocoon 2, perhaps? Like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to pretend to know what any of the story of this game means, but that pretty big boss that we took on in this game, he's nothing compared to the guy we see at the end here. So now we're in the credits. We get achievement number 15, Cosmic Architect, for finishing the game out. And yeah, this was a very fun game. I don't know if it'll be so great to watch in this style, but if you haven't checked this game out, it is so good. Such great puzzles to solve. But we're not quite done yet. We have 2 more achievements to take on, and they're both moon spirits. This will be pretty quick, I think. Just another quick shout out for cool things this game does. You don't have the standard chapter select in this game. It goes based on the % of where you were in the story, and I thought this was very cool to see. Achievement number 16, Mesh Network, is found inside the green orb fairly early on, about 30% through the game, and we just missed one of the paths that we could go down. Not too difficult to get. And like I said, nothing too difficult here. We missed only one more path in the entire game, and it's for achievement number 17, End of the Line, which is super fitting because this is the end of our line as well. So how did we do? TimeToBeat.com has Cocoon's 100% playtime at about 5.5 hours, and we finished in a mere 4.7. Absolutely smashed it. I think that's probably because, like I said before, I didn't really struggle too much on any of these puzzles. I really had a lot of faith in the devs putting the things that you needed to solve the puzzle right there, and I never really got super hard stuck, and I'm very happy that I didn't have to look up a single thing while completing this game, other than those 2 paths that I missed for the final 2 achievements. So, what do I think? I think this is a really weird video to do. I don't know if this game fits the normal themes that I do super well for this series, but this was kind of my love letter to Cocoon. I played this game and I was kind of on it for the first hour, but then it really won me back in the back half, and I could not help myself but to make this video going over how great this game is. I hope I didn't spoil too many of the puzzles for you guys that haven't checked this game out, because there's so many of the cool room-to-room puzzles that I really hope you guys get to experience someday. And hey, if they make a Cocoon 2, I am all in. Or even if it's not Cocoon, maybe something a little less smart for me, because like I said, I don't really know what the story of this game was. But hey, if the devs of this game make another game, I am all in, and I can't wait to check it out. And I hope you can't wait to check out next week's video, because as always, every Wednesday, 3 p.m. EST, we come back and do another 100% game run. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week as well. See ya!